As Albertans prepare for the May 29th provincial election, many are looking for truth and facts to make an informed and educated decision before they vote. The sharing of ideas and concepts are commonplace in our political dialogue. And today, we're going to hear from the Alberta First Party. Joining me today from Fernie, BC, doing a little bit of skiing to discuss the platform and goals of the party, is Alberta First Party leader Ed Kallio. Ed, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thanks, Hal. Great to be here with you.
So, Ed, how would you describe the Alberta First Party? What is it really all about?
Singular focus, Hal. It's separation. We're getting a raw deal from Ottawa. We've tried every other avenue available to us within Confederation to get a better deal, and nothing's worked out. So we really need to get out of this mess called Confederation, and that's our focus at Alberta First.
So before we talk about what an independent state of Alberta would look like here, will you have candidates running in all of the Alberta ridings?
We need to get official party status, and so we would like to run at least half the candidates. We need 44 in order to achieve official party status, and so that's our goal. We have a number of candidates already, but we're short of that number. We're very much grassroots and just getting going here, Hal.
So if you were to achieve that official party status, how could you expect to compete against the big dogs like the UCP and the NDP?
Well, we just see that the UCP and the NDP are they're big tent, that they're likely to water down any leverage that Alberta has with the feds. We just don't think that even with the Sovereignty Act, for instance, that's enough of a stick to get a better deal for Alberta. And when you look at the numbers, they are absolutely stark. The amount of outflow from taxation, various transfers to the feds, and the amount that we get back as Albertans, it just doesn't add up. So that's why we need a singular focus. We need a big stick to go to Alberta, and that's to go to Ottawa with, and that's a referendum on separation. And that's the only way we're going to get a better deal, and or separate. But separation is the goal.
Now, in the 2019 provincial election, it resulted in one of the highest voter turnouts since 1982 at about 68%, rising from 57% in 2015. Do you think we'll see that kind of engagement once again from Albertans?
Yes, I would expect to see a high level of engagement, Hal, again. I think that, Premier Kenney had made some promises going into the last election, which he didn't come through with. Then there was a change of leadership at the UCP with Danielle Smith taking over in her Sovereignty Act. I think that Albertans are focused. We're seeing increasingly an urban/rural divide. You're seeing clusters of NDP seats in the big cities, and then the rural areas are very much more conservative/UCP. And so I expect that voters are going to be absolutely focused on this election.
So when you're not on the ski hills, Ed, obviously you're doing some door knocking. What kind of feedback are you receiving from Albertans right now? What are some of their biggest concerns?
Well, the concerns are loss of control. They're seeing money going out. The cost of living is going up. The carbon taxation increases April 1st. There's a federal fuel standard coming as well. Costs are going up. We're getting less for it. There's less in our pockets. Our various levels of government, including the feds, provincial level, and municipal levels, are being driven by a top-down methodology, basically coming from the UN, which is these Sustainable Development Goals. and we're seeing our prime minister enacting those goals at the national level, and we even see it at the municipal levels. Calgary has passed that huge climate plan, which is, I think, $87 billion, which is a huge expenditure to enact those sustainable development goals. I think Albertans want to take back control of their province, and rather than cede that control to an unelected body, which is globalist in nature.
Now, do you think perhaps the sentiment of wanting to separate from Canada from a lot of Albertans would wane if the Trudeau Liberals were voted out? Because Pierre Poilievre has said specifically, I mean, he grew up in Shaughnessy and Calgary. He's an Albertan at heart as well, even though he's a federalist, that he would support Alberta and especially a lot of our energy policies.
Yeah, I mean, we've got $60 billion going out every year to the feds in transfers, and we get 27 billion back. Is he going to fix that? Is he going to fix that 33 billion deficit, which amounts to $90 million a day net? It's $165 million gross going to Ottawa. Is he going to fix that? Is Poilievre going to stay in power past one mandate, for instance, and we end up with another federal government that's or NDP government that's globalist in their leaning again? So we can't take that risk as Albertans. We need to drive this, and the only way to do it is to be serious about a referendum and separation. I call it speak softly and carry a big stick, and that's the stick.
So you think if we were to keep those transfer payments, we could really stand on our own, be a sovereign nation? What do you think an independent Alberta would really look like, Ed? Would we have our own money, our own police force, pension plan? How do you see it?
These policies are not set in stone by our party yet. We would need to have a policy convention. Say we were to form government or elect a number of NDP MLAs and hold the balance of power, for instance. Then it would be up to our membership to determine what kind of currency we would adopt, and all of those policies, those fiscal and the softer ones as well, social policies. And we're not at that stage yet. We have this singular focus, which is to separate. And we would trust in our membership and Albertans to come up with, a relevant and effective constitution, for instance. Perhaps we would look at a different electoral methodology, get rid of first past the post. All of these things are up in the air, but we can do it. And we can, as a separate country, we can be best in class in all areas. We would have money for education. We can have the best universities. We would have control of our natural resources, which we don't now because of the some of the federal legislation, such as Bill C-69 and C-48, where we can't get our hydrocarbons to tidewater. These are world-class hydrocarbons, and we're seeing top-down control via this environmental focus from the feds, the carbon focus, which is going to limit the use of fertilizers in our agricultural sector. So the two largest sectors in our economy are targets of the federal government, and we can't allow that to persist. So I look at the numbers. I've got a background in energy economics and a legal background. So I understand the constitutional underpinnings and the economics, and it's a crap deal for Alberta, and we need to get out.
Jason Kenney, when he was premier, I chatted with him a few times, off air and on air, and he was saying the biggest issue, like you said, is the fact that we're landlocked, trying to get a lot of our products to tidewater or oil. But then he also considered maybe working a deal somehow with BC to incorporate northern BC and get our oil out through that direction. What are your thoughts?
That can happen, but you've got a C-48 as a tanker moratorium on the west coast of British Columbia, north of Vancouver. So we're landlocked, basically, with respect to tanker traffic accessing any of those ports. And let's not forget that when the Gateway Pipeline was in its infancy and the talking stages, the ports up there, Prince Rupert and Kitimat, were fighting over being designated as the port that would be the terminus of the pipeline. So this complete narrative that the locals are all behind this tanker moratorium is, in my opinion, a lot of sophistry. There's a lot of support among the First Nations for these infrastructure projects. We're seeing the Coastal GasLink pipeline being built to take natural gas to Kitimat for the LNG Canada project. And I did a lot of work on those projects. I did the expert evidence for 17 of the LNG export license applications, all successful. And we are a hydrocarbon economy in Alberta and in Canada, as well as agriculture. And the end game of this current federal government is to shut us down.
Now, we talked about working with British Columbia about getting our product to Tidewater. How about maybe more central Canada and eastern Canada? Do you have maybe some thoughts on working with Quebec to develop the Energy East pipeline once again?
The Energy East pipeline, we took that concept. I cornered Ted Morton at a conference. And this was when Gateway and Keystone were very much up in the air. And I told Ted that plan B would be to convert part of the Trans-Canada mainline, which was underutilized, to oil, and take that oil to Tidewater. In fact, I gave him a chart on that. And then we approached Trans-Canada with it, and they took that concept and ran with it. And that's key to have access to East Coast Tidewater for our oil. So I'm a firm believer in that. The feds could do this overnight. They could designate an energy corridor, for instance, across the country, but they don't have the will to do it because, as I said, the end game is to shut us down because of the UN, IPCC, climate change, sustainable development goals that our feds have signed on to. So there's no willingness to do it. It could happen overnight. It could be designated in the national interest to have this corridor built over Quebec's protest stations, I might add. It would be federal jurisdiction, and we could do it. And it would be in the national interest, I submit. But climate is the overriding criteria by which any of these infrastructure projects are judged right now. And that is a bad deal for Alberta.
Now, many in our province would argue that Alberta is the economic engine that really drives Canada. So do you think that the British Crown and the rest of Canada will let us go without a fight? And many would say that Alberta is a lot stronger being in Confederation.
You know, I was in the UK in 2016 when the Brexit vote happened. Two things happened in 2016. Donald Trump got in and the Brexit vote happened. And Britain's out. The UK is out of the European Union. Separation can happen. The federal government sent a reference case to the Supreme Court with respect to what conditions would be necessary for a province to separate. The Supreme Court rendered that decision. Then we had the federal government enact the Clarity Act. So the template is there. In my opinion, the Clarity Act does not comport really with the Supreme Court decision. It's a bit more onerous on a province, but it's still doable. I do not feel that the feds and the other provinces would have much say if a majority of Albertans on a clear question vote to separate. Then we've got a stick and we can negotiate those terms.
Alberta First Party leader Edward Kallio, thanks so much for joining us today from Fernie, British Columbia. Enjoy your time on the slopes.
Great, Hal. Nice to be with you this afternoon with your viewers and yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and thanks for watching.